Hello, everyone. Good to be with you.
Hey, hi, Abby.
How are you?
I'm good.
You're gonna let me call you Mark.
Hey, all day.
I'm gonna call you Jonathan.
Yeah.
Please do that.
We're talking about masking today, which has obviously become something we didn't know we'd have to deal with. This is something that went away for a while, and there were actually laws against it. And then COVID obviously changed the game. Tell us, I want to start with you, Jonathan, what's the problem that the ADL is addressing in its campaign against masking, I would say with intimidation?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, thank you for setting us up, Abby. Thank you for being with us again for another
Thank you.
Never Is Now.
My pleasure, thank you.
And I would be remiss if I didn't just say, how amazing is Richie Torres?
Yeah.
Wow. We need more of him. Look, the ADL is an organization that was founded in many ways based on the liberties enshrined in the First Amendment. Freedom of worship, freedom of assembly, and freedom of speech. And I believe that we've got to hear, even speech we hate. Hate speech is the price of free speech. But you know what isn't the price of free speech? You know what isn't okay? Wearing a mask in the effort to conceal your identity so you can harass, intimidate, and terrorize people. And so, for me, this really it's hit home by what happened the other day up the street at Barnard. If anybody thinks that the people storming the building, assaulting the staff, and seizing that, university building were evoking Thomas Jefferson, I don't know what Constitution you're reading, but dressing up like ISIS to threaten and terrorize people is not okay. And that is an abuse. That is an abuse of the liberties that we all enjoy. So for us at ADL, we've been fighting masking, not just, in the last week, but ADL was involved in helping to get anti-masking laws passed in different states in the 1950s and 60s. And I think, Marc has a personal history, and his organization also cares deeply about this issue, and you can talk about, I think, that past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to go to you, Marc, on this. You have partnered with ADL, and why does this strike a chord for you personally?
Because Jonathan's a great American. It's important, so my history is a native of New Orleans, born in the South. And my beloved hometown, love y'all, New Orleans, and born in the waning days of segregation. My father was a civil rights lawyer and leader. He was president of the NAACP branch in 1962, 3, 4, and 5. My mother was a teacher and an activist, so they were on the front lines of this very important work. Growing up, threatening phone calls to our house were common. Threatening mail was common. Later on, when my father began his pioneering political career, when he ran for mayor of New Orleans in the 70s, our house was defaced with KKK spray painted on the fence. The idea behind masking and to propose statutes which prevent masking or limit masking, I'll say, are very, very important to understand history. And in a lot of discussions with people about it, I've said, you can't look at issues only in the context of today. You have to look at it historically. And historically, anti-masking rose in contraposition to the Ku Klux Klan and to their basic modus operandi, which was to mask themselves to carry out lynchings, to carry out hate, to terrorize people. Why were they masking? They were masking because in some cases, people who were Ku Klux Klansmen were quote unquote upstanding people in the community.
Yeah.
They were policemen, they were sheriffs, they were business people who did not want their identity to be concealed so that there would be no accountability. The idea behind this is accountability, so that if someone terrorizes someone, if someone under the guise of protest commits an act of violence, that there can be some accountability, that they can be held accountable. And I think that's the idea behind this.
So, Jonathan, can you tell us, absolutely, what part of what's led to this partnership are particular laws or legislation that you are proposing?
Yeah.
Can you just give us a sense of what actually you think could happen and how it might be enforced?
So look, there are 26 states in the country that have no masking laws or inadequate laws that we're targeting. We're starting out by focusing among the 26 with an initial 9, and already in Albany together, the ADL and the National Urban League have worked with members of the state assembly to get a new law kind of in the works to be passed. Now, what would that law say? And I should say, the laws that were there, many of them got pulled back or rescinded because of COVID. These laws that restricted masking in public places got changed because of the rules around COVID when people were immunocompromised. Our law would not stop masking in the event of people doing it for medicinal reasons. It wouldn't prevent someone from wearing a hijab, but masking while, if you will, harassing or intimidating people, committing a crime. You can't conceal your identity if you're going to do that. So that would essentially serve as like an additional penalty. So if someone were arrested, again, for harassing someone else, they were wearing a mask, that would add to the offense. So again, our teams are doing this literally right now here in New York. Our teams are working in Maryland to do something similar. Both of those are moving, and I think New Jersey is the next state that we'll be targeting.
You know, I wanted to say the inspiration for the National Urban League's relationship with ADL has a good part of, again, back to my hometown in New Orleans, my family and I's long-standing relationship with ADL in New Orleans, which was a partner in the civil rights days and in the civil rights movement. But it also, ladies and gentlemen, stems from a view that I have that hate is a cancer in America. Hate is a cancer, it's a vicious cancer. And otherism, because of race, creed, color, religion, gender, or gender identity, to me, is inimical. It is an opposite to an America where we say e pluribus unum, an America where we are trying to create this multiracial, multi-religious democracy. And so that's what's in my soul, to push back and condemn hatred. It is okay to say, I do not like hatred. It is okay to say we're going to fight hatred. And I think these laws are statements of affirmations of policy.
That's right.
But I think it's something much more, much deeper than that. So that's, I think, why this relationship. And then I also want to tell you, this relationship is also enabled by the leadership of Jonathan in a very, very big way. Because I think Jonathan has leaned in heavily, has been someone who has been a master of outreach and collaboration and discussion. And I think in this world today, we have to find common ground, ways that we can work together. So that's what inspires this.
And Marc.
Let me just say something.
Yeah.
Like, Marc Morial is an intrepid leader on so many levels. When we wanted to engage the White House on a summit against hate-fueled violence, Marc was like literally, along with the Rev, Marc was the first person there. When ADL was looking for a partner to do something on political violence, Marc and the National Urban League were the first people there. When we found opportunities to collaborate, and I got to pick up the phone and call someone who's running an institution, there is no better friend to the Jewish community than Marc Morial and the National.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you like each other. It helps. February 25th, there was a protest. It feels like we can't even keep track how many of all of them in Cincinnati on an overpass.
Yeah.
And there were about a dozen neo-Nazis waving swastika flags. They were also having signs saying America for the white man. It just focuses, as horrific as it is, of how sort of melding of hatreds often crop up together. So we look at what I think we would maybe in a too facile way talk about the anti-Semitism on the left on campus, but then we're also looking on anti-Semitism on the right. Sometimes it's all, conflated. But just if you could talk about that incident in particular, because they were all masked, and it was one of those times, again, where you don't quite understand why people are getting away with it.
We thought it was dead. We thought this hatred was dead. Did we think it was dead? Regrettably, it never dies. We have to continue to be vigilant. We have to continue to hold people accountable. And for me to see that, I just don't know what is in people's soul that inspires them or encourages them to be so hateful, but it proves the point.
100%.
They were out there with masks on. They didn't want to be detected. They did not want to be caught. And that was the intent and the purpose of them covering their faces.
Yeah, so the group that, to build on what Marc said, the group that Abby's talking about is called the Blood Tribe. They're as revolting as they sound. And we've seen groups like Blood Tribe, which is just overtly neo-Nazi, groups like the Patriot Front, which do these flash actions where they'll pull up in a truck and all pile out of the U-Haul. And you've seen them march down Pennsylvania Avenue in DC. They did a thing recently in Michigan and so on. And look, whether you're wearing a white sheet or wearing a red thing with a swastika or wearing a scarf or whatever, the thing that these protesters have in common, two things. Number one, it's hate. Their goal is not to articulate a political argument, it is to intimidate. That's why they do it. Just like the ISIS fighters, just like those Russian forces in Ukraine. Right, yeah. They dress like
Jonathan,
this in order to
I just want to pause there, because you can imagine, I'm going to channel the naysayers here. Saying, we have a message that we care about.
Yeah.
And I'm on campus, or I'm wherever I am in New York streets, to convey that message. Yeah. I want people to hear, what is your response to those who say, I am protesting in good faith, and you're ascribing a threatening motive?
You're not conveying a message when you hide your face. You're simply communicating your cowardice. If you have a message, I hope everybody hears me, not just people in the room, people to whom we are webcasting this, the people from groups like SJP or Blood Tribe or whomever. If you don't have the guts to show your face, then shut up, because I think it's completely inappropriate.
Hazel Dukes, we sadly lost her just recently. She was the NAACP representative in New York.
Yeah.
And
she is an institution.
She was an institution.
A legend.
A legend, and she
a
died
firebrand.
at 92. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, amazing.
Somewhere.
And I just want to quote her. She said, "Black communities know all too well that individuals who hide their identities with intent to terrorize, intimidate, or harass are a threat to all of our safety and have no place." Can you just, again, remind us, for some who say that we are over-focused on the Israel protester, why this ultimately affects all of us?
Well, because it may be that in this context, that's the facts of today. But the truth is, this is why history is crucial. This is why sweeping history under the rug is bad. This is why people should understand the horror of the Holocaust. They should understand the horror of slavery. They should understand this. They should be schooled in it. Because if you're schooled in it, there's no debate. There's no discussion. You will understand that cowards mask themselves and they call themselves the Ku Klux Klan. And all these groups are basically inheritors of the gospel of hate. That is what they are. And free speech is not hate speech. And I will always defend responsible free speech, but I will always condemn hate speech. wherever it comes, in whatever form it comes,
Thank you.
against whoever it comes. We gotta level set, but my thing about education is, and there's a big discussion about banning books, and look, when you learn history, you have to learn the good, the bad, and the ugly. When you learn history, you can't run away from the tragedies that shape modern thought. And I think this is one of the mistakes we tend to make. People say, well, why do you keep bringing it up? Why do you keep bringing it up? Well, I keep bringing it up because it is necessary to understand today to have a clear sense of yesterday. And we've got to really, really promote, Jonathan, in order to really attack anti-Semitism or racism or hatred, people have to understand the sources of these, lest we continue to be in a cycle of wash, rinse, and repeat.
Okay.
And that is not good for our children
Thank
and our
you.
children's children.
Thank you. So I just want to end with what people can do. We've run out of time, but I want to leave them with some kind of action item. If someone wants to get involved in the tell me what you're calling it, the End Hate.
The campaign is called Unmask Hate NY. You can go to unmaskhateny.org and to learn about the campaign right here in the Empire State. If you want to get involved in what we're doing here in New York, or you'd like to get involved with what we're doing in Maryland, literally just right outside these doors, there's a station where you can go sign up. So everyone here in this room who's like, I want to be involved, just go literally down across the hall to the activation station and sign up. To the people who are watching, I'd encourage you to go online to unmaskhateny.org, or you can go to adl.org and sign up there as well.
ADL, do what you do. Raise righteous indignation. Raise your voice.
Thank you.
In righteous indignation.
Thank you, Marc.
Do what you do.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan.
I think that's wonderful.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you, brother. Good, thank you.